Hi everybody. In this video, we are going to look at how to add default and optional parameters to customized functions. SonicPy does allow us to define our own functions and add our own parameters so that we can use them in our own programs. I have a function right here that I've made. This is based off a previous tutorial that I did on making trap hi-hats with the density function. So you can go back and check that if you really want to understand what's going on with this function. But basically, I am just playing a hi-hat and having it sleep for 1, and then passing a parameter into the density function, which will make it play multiple times per beat. Okay, so here in this live loot, I am calling that function, which is called hats, and then I have to pass with a single parameter, which is here as D, and in this case I'm going to pass it a 2, so it's going to play twice per beat. And then under here I just have a kick and a snare to kind of add to the drum beat that this hats function is going for. So just so you can hear it, and I can change that argument. So there's a bit I can do with this function. Again, you can check out that other tutorial. But the thing I want to look at now is, right now I have this sample, which is the hat star. So as of when this tutorial was made, SonicPy version 4.4 was just released not too long ago, and in that there's actually a bunch of new hi-hat samples. So I'm going to take a little time and go through some of those, but the idea is that, let's say I wanted to pass a parameter so I could choose what hi-hat sound. So I could make a argument here and then pass that and say hat star there. Okay, but let's say I want to have a default that if I don't pass it this, that it will still play, because right now if I play it, I'm going to get an error message and it's not going to play. So what I can do is, with this, I can do hat, but then I can write equal, and then I can do hat underscore star. Okay, and so now when I run it, if I only pass it this first parameter here, this first argument, it's just going to default to this hat sound. But if I decide to pass it a different argument, I say I want to change that hi-hat sound to this hat zap, I can do that. So if I don't put an argument, then it is just going to default to this hat star. But if I do put that second argument in, I have the option to change that hi-hat. So I could, again, maybe change it to this gump. I could do cat hat. Oh, I think it's cats. So this is a way we can have a default parameter, but then pass an argument to override that default. Now, another thing, let's just show you. So there's a couple of these hi-hats, the sigh. That's a little on the louder side, and there's one called tap, which is a little on the quieter side. So let's say I want to also have an optional parameter where I can change the volume if I want. If not, it'll default, but I can change it. So this one, I'm not going to have a default. I'm just going to put, this is going to be an optional parameter that I can pass or not pass if I want to. So to do that, we need to start with a star, and you can call this parameter whatever you want. I'm just going to call it args here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do amp, and then I'm going to create a variable within this called a. So a equals 1. Okay, so I can still run this, and it's just going to have that default there. Okay, but now what's going to happen is, when we pass an argument into this that is now an optional parameter, it's going to store it into a array, because I could theoretically pass a whole bunch of arguments there like that, and even I'll just do a puts here. We'll puts args now, and then you can see that pops up this 1, 2, 3, 4. So now all these optional parameters that I've passed have shown up in this array, and I could access those and use those within this function in whatever way that I wanted to do. But for now, I'm just going to pass one optional function, and that is going to be to change the amplitude. So I'm going to have this. Now what I'm going to put here is that a equals args index 0. Okay, because again, remember, it's storing all these in an array. Even if I just pass one argument, it's still going to be within the context of an array. Okay, so a equals 0. But I'm going to do that only if, okay, so I'm just going to use a single line conditional here as opposed to a conditional statement. So if args.length is equal to 1, okay? Or I could do is greater than 0, or I could do is not equal to 0. Any of those, basically just saying that if anything is inside of this args argument, if now args is an array that contains at least one element, then it's going to override this default and it's going to pass it in. But if the length is not greater than 0, or if it just is equal to 0, but in this case I'm just going to do equal to 1 because I'm only going to pass one parameter. If it's equal to 1, it's going to override a and it's going to pass that into that. So now what I can do is I have this hat tap, which is a little quiet. I'll just start it out without that argument there. So now I could change. And there you could hear it get louder, or say use the psi one, which is a little loud already. Can pass that parameter and change the amplitude. But again, remember, if I don't want to use that one, maybe I want to use another one of these. I think that's one of them. Then I don't have to pass that argument at all. Okay, and again, just a reminder, I don't have to pass anything, but I also have that default parameter there. All right, so this is just a quick way that you can add some defaults to your custom functions, or some optionals, parameters that maybe you don't always want to use, but you don't want to have to constantly be passing them if you're not going to use them. One thing to bear in mind, that this is more of a vanilla Ruby sort of syntax. This is not specific to Sonic Pi, and anytime you're going to use something that's not specific to the Sonic Pi documentation, you do run the risk of it maybe not working correctly in future updated versions of Sonic Pi. So anytime you're going to use just regular Ruby within your Sonic Pi, be aware that that might not be supported in a future version, so just be prepared for that. But hopefully this will be something that stays supported for a while, and hopefully you can get a lot of use out of it.